Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the FCS Prep Podcast, where I am your host, Dr. Keith Fairclough. And guys, once again, we're back in Baltimore. I really want to hop into the content. I want to talk about the two emotions we're talking about today, which is anger and hurt. The reason why I'm doing this, I'm trying to do this list of 17 emotions. I'm trying to do this list and get these videos out and the ones that are most prevalent, the ones that we experience most often, so people can start using this information right now, sharing it right now so people can get the help that they need. Well, first, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, get this stuff out here. People need help. Let's start off with talking about anger. What triggers anger, right? What does it even mean? What does the emotion of anger mean? The emotion of anger means that a major rule or belief that we held has been violated by somebody else or something in the world, right? Some major rule, some major belief that we hold, right? It might be right, it might be wrong, it might be too broad, it might be too narrow, but it's been violated. And we are charged with energy to go and resolve this violation or, pay back this violation, right? And so how does a body respond to anger? The adrenaline response starts kicking in. Heart rate starts going. Blood starts pumping. We get flushed, right? Hormones start going. Fists get clenched. Jaw gets clenched. We get tighter, like we start pacing maybe, increased heart rate, all these things. We're ready for war. We're ready to battle. That's what anger does. Those are the physiological things that are going on within us that show us that, oh shoot, that's the emotion of anger, right? What are some things that might cause anger, right? I'm just going to touch on a few of them, right? But it could be us being disrespected, undervalued, injustice, something that's unfair, betrayal, betrayal of our trust, unmet expectations. There'll be a number of things that trigger anger. These are just a few of the things that trigger anger. Your belief or value is challenged. Like all these things could trigger anger. Why? Because they're violating one of your beliefs. All right. So now what do we do to correct it? What's one of the main things we got to do to correct it? We have to reevaluate our belief in our rule. Maybe you thought I was going to say, I need to go address it with that person. I need to communicate with that person. I need to do this. I need to do that. That's what I need to. The first thing you have to do is you need to reevaluate that rule and that standard that you set. Is it too rigid? Is it too broad? Is it too general? Is it too narrow? Is there room for grace? You need to start evaluating that, asking yourself those questions, because maybe the rule that you created, that belief you created when you were a little kid and was used to protect you. So maybe you had to paint a broad brush back then. If anybody says anything I don't like, I'm going to fight them, right? Because I find as disrespect, I feel it's devaluing me. And maybe back when you were younger, that was the case. But obviously, as we get older, and here's the big key thing, I want you guys to take this away, not just for this emotion, but across the board. About 85 to 90% of the beliefs and the values that we have them by the time we're 7 years old. If the beliefs are good and they work, then fine, great, awesome. Carry them all the way for the rest of your life. There are certain beliefs that we have set and they're maladaptive. They're not good. There's certain rules we created when we were 6, 5, 4, 2, 7 years old, 10 years old. And it worked for that time, but those rules don't work now. Let me also say this. I said the first thing you got to do. Maybe it's not the first thing you got to do in the middle of the event, right? Because it's going to be very hard for you to be raging and full of hormones and ready to fight and kill somebody and then stop and say, you know what? Is this even a good belief to have? Let me think about that. Like, that's not realistic, right? So this is a general thing. After the event has happened, and we'll get into what you got to do, the other things you can do. But after the event has happened, you really need to sit back and evaluate. Did I really handle that the right way? Was my belief, did they really violate me? Did that really happen? Was I really betrayed? Did I play any part in that around personal responsibility? You need to start looking at that belief. You need to start evaluating it, looking at it from different sides, different angles. See, okay, was that? Did I blow that in proportion? Check it against somebody. Talk to someone you trust, someone you know is going to be unbiased. right? Check it against someone, see what they say. But you got to evaluate that belief. You got to, right? Because it's a strong possibility that maybe, just maybe, they didn't actually mean to do the thing that they did. Or maybe they are really repentive. So this goes on to my next thing. Approach it from a place of empathy, not retribution. Because there are a lot of people who make mistakes and they don't intend to make those mistakes. But if you want to go all fire and brimstone, then you could end up causing damage to someone over something that they didn't even mean to do. Whereas if maybe you moved a little bit of empathy and put yourself in that situation, because we've all have been in the same spot, because we want to crucify someone. We've been in that same spot. We've done something wrong. We've been that person. The next thing, all right, you want to make sure you become curious before you fly off the handle. Get curious and really start asking questions. Okay, what do they mean by that? Do I have all the information? Did you really mean to say it like that? Maybe you were having an off day. Once you start getting curious about a situation, you'll start seeing there are so many different variables that are at play, so many different things that it could possibly be, so many possibilities. So when you start getting curious and then you start asking those questions, you can start actually getting down to the root of whatever the issue was. And again, that's why I'm saying more often than not, the misunderstandings, not intentionalities, not people really trying to hurt you. Get curious about the situation. You'll start seeing that when you get curious, that anger actually will kind of subside, because you can't be angry and think properly and process things properly. So, and I probably should have started with this. Honestly, I probably should have started with this. But we need to make sure we learn coping and emotional regulation skills. That is key. We need to learn them, practice them. Guys, I have guided meditation. I have guided breathing. I have guided muscle relaxation. I have a slew of relaxational videos with the music and stuff like that, right? Get into the habit of making sure there's some part of your self-care routine where there's some type of emotional regulation, some type of coping skill, some type of practice, some type of breathing, some type of something. You got to create in your brain the pattern of what calm is and the signals for calm. A deep breath is a signal for calm. Maybe I clench my fist really tight and then I let them go. And that's a signal for calm. Create these triggers for calm so that when you become angry, you can calm yourself down and self-soothe in the moment. Also, learn the power of how to communicate and walk away. How to say, you know what, I'm becoming upset right now. I can't do this anymore. We can come back and talk about this later, but I'm about to lose it, and then walk away. We're not saying that for permission. We're saying that so we don't blow up and it doesn't get into and turn into something that it shouldn't turn into. And when you go away, distract yourself. Don't think about the problem. We got to make sure, in any case, we got to make sure that we are calm and we can actually think rationally, right? If we can't think rationally, if we can't think calm, then listen, we're not going to be able to process and do any of the things we talked about already. And also, last thing, learn to listen. Don't be so quick to get angry. The Bible says be slow to speak, slow to anger, quick to listen. Listen, right? It's so important, because you might be getting upset because all you heard was the first part of what they said. But if you would have stopped and listened, you would have heard everything they were going to say and recognized, oh, there's no need for me to be angry because they didn't violate any rule. Really, 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 really important. So that's anger, guys. Do those things to take care of the anger. You understand what it is. You understand what it looks like. You understand what causes it. And now you know what to do to clear it from the queue. Now, let's make a transition and let's move on to hurt. So what is hurt? What does that mean for us to be hurt? All right. It means that there are some unmet expectations, or is there unmet needs? I actually like that better. Let's run with that. Hurt comes from unmet needs, right? Because sometimes expectations could be not realistic. And I don't believe, and we even talked about this, I actually wrote a book about it, but I didn't publish it yet, about how expectations should only be placed on ourselves and not on others. We could have standards, boundaries. We can want things to go a certain way, but an expectation in my book is something that we can make sure comes to pass. We have some type of way to make sure this thing comes to pass. We have full control over it. That's just my definition. Doesn't have to be yours, doesn't have to be anybody else's, but that's why I'm changing from unmet expectations to unmet needs. There's something that you need and it's not being fulfilled, and it hurts. And it hurts. And so many times it shows up as invalidation and being dismissed because you try to express your need, or you beat around the bush, or whatever the case may be, and you get invalidated. Or you're trying to engage in getting your need, and because the other person isn't aware, they dismiss you or they don't pay attention. So it shows up like that over and over again. The hurt builds up over and over and over again because we don't know even how to address it a lot of times. Sometimes we have a need, then it comes out as an argument. It comes out as criticism. It comes out as contempt. Comes out as yelling and screaming and insults. Comes out as sarcasm. That's not because we want to hurt the other person, because we are hurt and we don't know how to convey it because we don't know how to communicate it. And so how do you correct hurt? You got to do one or two things. You either got to change your approach and how you're conveying your need, or you have to learn how to communicate better and more effectively. One of those two things. You either change your approach. Maybe you are communicating, but maybe the approach you're coming at, like I said, maybe you're being critical. Maybe you're being sarcastic. Maybe you're being, you're condescending. Maybe you're doing things like that. And because you're doing things like that, your message isn't getting received. Or maybe you don't really know how to communicate. So you stonewall, you shut down, right? Not because you get overwhelmed. We talked about overwhelmed in another video, right? You have a need and someone's trying to ask you what you need, but maybe because you don't know how to open up, you're so scared, or maybe you've been hurt before, or maybe someone else, you tried to open up before and someone hurt you before when you opened up because they invalidated you. You learned the lesson and created the belief that I'm not worthy. I'm not worth anything. So there's no sense in me opening up. There's no sense in me sharing. How it's so horrible for men because a lot of times men are hurt. There's a sad joke that's said where they say women get unconditional love, children get unconditional love, and the dog gets unconditional love, but the man does not get unconditional love. Unfortunately, there's so many of us men out here who believe this. And it's not that we don't have access to unconditional love. It's that we don't know how to convey our needs, or we don't even know what our needs are. However, there's another part of this as well. As far as corrections, I said there's two, there's actually three. You have to know what you need. And when you stop and think about it, and when people are addressed with this question, they hit you with a generality. I just need you to love me more. I need you to be more present. I just need, just some type of generality. So it's so vague. We don't even know what we need. So how can someone meet our need if we don't even know what our need is? We expect them to just mind read. We want to drop little hints. We want to be passive aggressive and think people are going to pick up on these little breadcrumbs we're leaving. And all they're doing is stepping all over it and validating us and dismissing us, not intentionally, because we're not being clear with our message, or if we even know what our message is. So it's so important for us to learn how to communicate our needs. Find out what our needs are. Take time to sit down and find out what our needs are. And I'll say that your needs, whatever your needs are, whatever your list is, it must be something that's objective. It must be something that's behavioral. Or in other words, it's got to be something someone can either physically do or verbally do. So you shouldn't say, I want more intimacy. No, you got to be clear. I want more sex. I want this type of sex. That's what I want. And this is how often I want it. We need to be clear like that, right? Or no, when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about deep conversations where I can be open and vulnerable with you. I want more time like that where it's just me and you, no kids and no anything else, no one else around, no friend, nothing like that. I want that. Or maybe it's a child and a parent. I want to have a closer bond with you where we're actually engaged in activity. Like when we used to throw the ball around, Dad. That was a phenomenal time. I want to spend more time doing that. We were able to talk and be open and honest and real with each other. I want to do more things like that. I know maybe you're a little bit older right now, so maybe instead of throwing the ball, maybe we can go fishing, right? Maybe we can go work out. Maybe we could do something like that, Dad. I want to connect with you with some type of activity, right? See how these things are objective. These things are behavioral. These things are someone can physically do. These things are things that people can say. I know my wife, one of the things she told me she loves is like future building stuff, talking about things in the future. Talk about what our house is going to look like. Talk what the opportunities are going to look like. Talk about what our bank account's going to look like. Talk about what our relationship's going to look like. But just future build. Talk about where you're going to take me. Talk about vacations. It could be far in the future. It could be near in the future. I don't care. She was very clear about that. Okay, I know exactly what to do now. I know exactly the things we can talk about, right? I know exactly how to bring things up and engage those conversations. Long story short, when you make your list of needs, make sure they're objective, behavioral, or again, in other words, something that your significant other or the person you're trying to talk to or engage with, they can pick it up and they know exactly what to either do or say. Oh, and there's another caveat as well. Sometimes our needs aren't being met, not because we're not conveying them, not because we're not communicating properly, not because we don't have a list. Sometimes our needs aren't being met simply because we're not meeting someone else's needs. This is huge in like marriage, especially with men, because a lot of times we think it's this quid pro quo thing and like it's a payment or a transaction thing. But the reality of the situation is we as men got to go first. We're the leaders. We're supposed to go first. We're supposed to love first. We're supposed to cherish them first. We're supposed to honor them first. We're supposed to do that stuff first. And what happens with women is that they will respond in kind. That's just how it operates. That's how it operates. And if you vet, and of course, this is with making sure you vet the right woman. This is with making sure you vet the right woman. All right. So this isn't talking about, okay, you just got in this wild, wacky relationship and now you're with this woman who doesn't know how to communicate, has all this trauma and all these things like that. And she's broken and she's just sucking life out of you and all these things. And not talking about that, right? I'm talking about you found the right woman. Maybe y'all can't communicate properly or something like that. You got to work on some things, but you found the right woman. If you found the right woman, doing this and going first is going to get your needs met. You know, I'll give you a friend example, right? Man, you know, hey, we used to hang out. We used to kick it, but I used to love that, man. We were playing games and like getting it in and like it was like a party of us and things like that. But I used to love that, man. Hey, it just hurts me that like I know like we got older and we got jobs and things like that. But I was thinking about the other day, man, I was hurt, man, because I was like, dang, man, I miss my bro, man. I miss my brother, man. I miss my friend. Like, bro, can we just link up like that again, man? Like, we got this new game coming out. Destiny 3's coming out. You know, can we link up again, man? Just hop on and just run it, man. Just do a raid or something. Like, can we do that, man? See how that's really specific? See, I'm not blaming anybody for anything. I'm just saying, man, I really miss those times. So again, this approach, guys, and I'll get into the communication, this approach, you know, it just works wonders. Right. And then again, meeting someone's needs. It's a huge thing. Sometimes I'm telling you, when you meet other people's needs, they will meet your needs. So when we talk about changing our approach, when we talk about communication, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. I want you to evaluate your style, your communication style. I want you to evaluate your communication. I want you to ask yourself, am I using I statements? You know, here on this channel, we talk about the SIR method: situation, emotion, reason, request, right? We talk about the SIR method, right? Are you using it the right way? Are you using it with the right tone? Are you making sure not to use you too much? And also, let me throw this in here as well. I know in the communication video, when I talked about the SIR method originally, I was like, you know, dogmatic about not using the word you. I'm going to let up a little bit on that because you can use the word you when you're explaining the reason, and you most certainly have to use the word you as you're giving the request, right? You're making the request. You got to, right? Because who are you making the request to? The person you're talking to, right? Your friend, your significant other, your child, whoever. So long story short, you want to make sure and ask yourself the question, am I using those I statements correctly? When I come home late for work and there's no dinner, I feel hurt. You know, why? Because I feel like you don't care about me. I feel like nobody cares about me. I feel like I'm out here alone. Like I'm out here doing all this stuff. And then it feels like just no one cares, you know, and I really love it. I really, really love it if you could just, you know, set a plate out for me, set it to the side, you know, take a picture and send it to me or something like that. You give me something to look forward to, you know. I just love that, you know, because it would give me such a strong appreciation for you, you know, and just almost want to build you up. And, you know, I always try to build you up, but like, it really just fill me up if you're able to do that for me. And then you know what? Same thing. It works, right? You can throw any other I statement in there or situation. It works. I use the word you in the reason section. I use the word you in the request section, right? It's okay to use it there, right? Because you're identifying who it is. When we're in the reason section, when we're talking, when we use the word you, the goal there is not to assign blame. It's just describing the action that took place and what that action did to you, how it elicited the emotion, right? So that's why I'm saying it's okay to use the word you. Right. But don't go overboard. Don't go crazy with it. Now, the next thing, how long is this conversation going on for? Listen, time can drag on and make a conversation really, really, really bad. Not because of how they came to you, because maybe they're like, oh, no, my communication was perfect. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that, but it's like, but you were going on and on and on and on. Eventually, it wears the person down. Remember, the SIR method, using I statements, listening, actively listening, doing all those things should cut your conversation down drastically. We're talking about maybe 5 to 10 minutes, unless it spawns off into something else that is a better, greater conversation that enhances, your relationship, right? But generally speaking, if there's something that I'm expressing a thought or a feeling, it shouldn't take me more than about maybe, and 5 minutes is a long time, believe it or not. And honestly, if you do the SIR method properly and the person's actively listening and asking questions if they don't understand something, then maybe a minute to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I know it sounds crazy. Like, who has conversations that quick? Remember, this isn't even designed to be a conversation. This is designed for you to share what you're experiencing and have the other person validate you in that moment by listening to you and trying to understand you. Now, again, if the conversation spawns into something that builds a relationship, phenomenal. Great. But that initial thing should not take any more than about 3 minutes. 5 tops. If your conversation is going longer than that, you're not communicating properly. I'm going to say it right there. You're not communicating properly, and your message is going to be lost because the amount of time it's taking for you to get that message out. And the last thing's listening skills. Really, really, really important. Not just from the person who maybe caused the offense, but also the person who's been offended, the person who's been hurt, the person whose needs have not been met. And the reason why is because you may be hurt based off a misunderstanding. And if you listen to the person and they listen to what they're saying and let them explain, it could be the thing that alleviates your hurt. Because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Or however, maybe they're hurt. So maybe they explain why they did what they did, and you now both get a chance to validate one another. So the listening skills are so, so, so important. So, so, so important. So now hurt, I will say this. Now the symptoms I have with hurt, like almost like a lump in your throat, teary-eyed, maybe some stomach discomfort, things like that. Sometimes people feel things in their chest. But however, because of the way hurt operates and how hurt can go to anger and how hurt can go to sadness, hurt can take on the attributes of that new emotion. Right? Because the hurt transforms into, I won't say transforms into, but it connects to these other emotions. So these generally, if it just stays at hurt, is kind of where it is. But if hurt goes into other areas, then it can take on additional physiological symptoms, right? So let's keep that in mind. But guys, that's it for anger and hurt. I hope this has been informative for you. I hope you guys can apply it. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and share. So, so, so important, right? And I'll have a message for you guys too, right? I'm just gonna let you guys know right now. This emotion series is going to be the last series, not for the podcast, but it's gonna be the last series that I operate in this style. All right, I'm going to be moving to a much more niche after this series is done. My business, I'm doing not even a rebranding, but really just more so refocusing. Because ultimately, remember, I've always tell you guys, I want to improve the world by improving you. And the whole reason why I even started down this journey, because I really was trying to find that panacea, that thing that cures all things, that thing that can make the biggest impact, and using my skills in mental health. And as I started with children and I was working into the families, and then as time went on, I just kept digging and really trying to find out what's the best way I can affect positive change in the world, right? And it all came back to, man, you got to work with men. And this is something that God's put on my heart. This is something that science has backed up. This is just so many things have backed up and confirmed it for me, that if I really want to make effective change in this world, I got to start working with men and teaching them how to be men, how to be the leaders, providers, and protectors that we were designed to be, showing them what that looks like. And I'm not going to be swinging the pendulum in any direction other than keeping it right in the middle and staying grounded. So no, I'm not going to this super alpha, thing over here. I'm not doing that. And I'm not going to be going to this like mamby-pamby, let's be super soft and cry all the time thing over here. I'm not doing that. Right? We're going to be in the middle. We're talking about emotional intelligence. We're talking about masculinity. We're talking about strength. We're talking about being able to make sure our women are good, right? So it's not just going to be about men. It's also going to be about relationships as well, because from how I'm operating and how I work, our relationships are the number one most important thing in our lives. They cause us the most stress and bring us the most joy. If I can get the men right, then the men can get the family right. And if we can get the family right, we can get the community right. If we can get the community right, we can get everything else right. And I know it might be pie in the sky, but guys, this is just what it is. How many of our lives right now has been changed simply because one man stood up and this was a man? He said, this is not right. This is not right. And we will not stand for it. You can list, the first one that comes to mind, obviously, for me, not obviously, but I think of Martin Luther King Jr. Someone stood up and said, no, this is not right. And we're going to do something to correct it. And it rallied people around him to change the system for me as a black man, for black people across the world. Y'all just stay tuned. Again, more of this stuff is going to be coming out. I don't know if I'm going to be changing any symbols or anything like that, but y'all just stay tuned, guys. There's a whole lot more coming our way as far as emotions are concerned. But I hope this is informative to you. I hope it blesses your life. I hope it changes your life. Right? And I hope you can share it with somebody else and it can change their life too. Also, real quick, ladies, you don't have to leave. You don't got to go, right? This information will be great for you as well. It'll be great for your relationships, things you could share with your husband, share with your boyfriend, your fiance. You could share it with them so they can get this information. They can get the help that they need. And in those who are single, those are women who are single, you can start learning about the different traits tied to what a real man is and look for that in your mate out there. Look for that in the guys that approach you, and if they don't have that. But anyways, guys, I love you all. I want y'all to take care, be blessed. I'll be back soon, and we'll go into some more emotions then, right? Y'all take care.